Hey guys, Youthful Yields here. Yeah, just a warning, I switched operating systems again, so that's why everything might look a little bit different, um, but shouldn't affect any of the video. But moving on into the portfolio update for this week, we can see here that we have unfortunately 1.39% down. Um, the stock market on this side is down 1%, almost 1%. So there's that. Just everyone has probably experienced it this week. It was a pretty rough week. With that being said, we can take a look into each of the portfolios here. Actually, I'll start here. I got that about a $40 dividend. I guess we could check that here. You can see that this account is worth $10,000 and $10,350, which sucks because we lost a lot of money on this side. So if we add these two together, that's about $450. But we got that $44.11 dividend. So there's that. Got a huge. The Nasdaq went down a lot, but really the death of the portfolio so far has been YMAX, unfortunately. So there's that. Um, Moving on to Webull. Honestly, a really exciting week for the Webull portfolio. You can see we're at $1,172. So pretty nice. You can see that slowly going back up. We were actually higher at one point. We were up, I think, some money, up about $60. But I am just really thankful that we're almost, close to our initial position. And as I've been saying for a long time now, I think MSTR is just going to go down, 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 and it's proving to be that case as well. In fact, we could take a look here at MSTR right here. It did have a pretty good Friday, I will say, but if we take a look, it was down 15% this week, and it was down way lower. So yeah, it is what it is. I do feel like this is going to keep going down though. Now, if we look at like the news on this, I think they bought more Bitcoin. And also, not to mention, Bitcoin itself actually jumped a lot in the last few days. So it was around 80K and then just jumped back up to like 90K. So there's that. So that's probably what happened, and it's probably something to do with like these articles are saying here with the Trump announcement on the crypto reserve. But moving past MSTR, I wanted to also show the heat map for this week. I'm going to try to do this every week now because I think it's a really good, display. So I get the heat maps from Stock Analysis. I mean, they're all over the internet, different pages, but I use Stock Analysis for pretty much everything else. Anyways, so you can see here like the big losses were Nvidia, Tesla, Google, and then there's like some other down here, but really Nvidia and Tesla were like the biggest losers this week. Really the entire tech sector, which is kind of why the Nasdaq fell. If we take a look at the Nasdaq, the last 5 days, it fell 3.4%, and so there's that. If you kind of factor in TQQQ into that, obviously you can see that that's a 3x leverage fund, so that really did some damage to our portfolio as well. Luckily, we had the BTOL to kind of save it though. So yeah, over just an overview page, we can see here we're currently at $11,566.42. So less than we were last week. You can see by about $200, obviously, which sucks, but it is what it is. And then on top of that, we have about last year, we've earned about $1,318.76 of just dividends. That comes out to about an average annualized dividend yield of 24.7%, and we still only have 3 holdings. I did hold off on, let's see here. I'm going to show you guys something I was looking at the other day, which is AIPI versus YMAX. I know I bring this up in the video a lot, but it's somewhat important to look at these metrics because at first I was like, oh, it seems like a no-brainer to move to AIPI, but then I, saw it was starting to fall really bad. Actually, it was further than YieldMax. But then YieldMax kind of, I think let's see, I guess I don't want to speak for. We'll just do year to date. You can see AIPI is still actually down a little bit more. In fact, if we just look at the last, this is year to date though. If we look at the last 5 days, you can see YMAX is actually down further. So that's something to keep in mind. Neither of them are performing very well this week or this year so far, unfortunately. If we take a look at, just the thing is, and I think I mentioned this last week, I don't need the income right now. Really, I shouldn't be investing into these high yield income funds. But they are pretty appealing because they have such a high dividend rate annualized rate that technically for some of them, like, with Misty last year, it's like you'd actually be earning more money holding that. So technically I could just hold MSTR at that point, which is something I'm really trying to keep in mind. If you look at SCHG, I know these aren't really in the same category, but you can see that only lost about 2% this year. And yeah, the thing is, SCHG, or even putting more allocation towards our TQQQ BTOL portfolio, it honestly might be a good idea to do that, because I was taking a look after last week's video, and if we go to Testfolio and create a new one here with BTOL at 50% and TQQQ at 50%, and we say we have a cash flow of about $2,000 a month, which is what we're going to try to do in my portfolio, and we say we start at 10K and we insert that every month, and then we'll just say add preset of let's just say the S&P 500, right? And then we'd say backtest. Well, we can see here that it's like way big of a difference, and we can go here. This is since 2011, and we can see the annualized returns here. I mean, last year was 35%, right? And the year before that was 91%. Yeah, there are years like this where you're going to lose a lot of money, but you just don't sell. And I know that's easier said than done, but it is kind of that easy. And you can see here that this has a little bit of history. Now, it doesn't have a lot of people in the leveraged ETF community really don't like just looking at the last 10 years, because this actually does not include the 2008 crisis or the dot-com bubble, because those are really important. Because, for example, the dot-com bubble, this would have destroyed something like TQQQ. There are ways to get around this, but I'm not going to go into that during this video. But you can see, even with that, minus 29%, the next year came back and bid it like crazy, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. I think maybe I need to start transitioning into that, just because with the dividend stuff, something that people, we as high yield dividend holders really need to keep in mind, excuse me, is AIPI and YMAX are very good funds at making money when there's a bull market or just a neutral market. The problem is when they lose money they have a very hard time gaining capital appreciation back because their primary focus as a fund is to generate income. It's not to generate, uh, it's not to increase share price or the NAV. So that's something that is really scary in times like this, right? At the beginning of this year, I mean, the S&P 500's, I think, down. Let's see. Let's just go to year to date. Well, it's a little bit up, but not by much. It was pretty much down, I think. Let's see. Well, it was pretty much even uh, on the 27th, but I digress. My point is, it's really hard for YMAX, especially. I can't speak for AIPI too much because I don't own it, so I don't have like real world experience, if you want to call it that. But with YMAX, it starts to go down and then stops. Well, that's great. Then the dividends come back to normal, but let's say it goes from 50 to 40, then it just kind of hovers at 40, right? And then another crash happens and it goes from 40 to 35 or 40 to 30, and then it stays at that level. So it's very hard for it to gain back the NAV. And that's when people talk about NAV erosion. That's kind of part of what they mean. A lot of people in high yield dividend, like a lot of yield max lovers, try to say, there's with a lot of these funds, there is no NAV erosion, but that's not exactly true. It's not NAV erosion from the income, but from drops like this. That's the problem. So I don't know. It's just a really big thing to change in the portfolio, and I want to still deliver. I know a lot of people that are investing in these funds are not my age. They're a lot older than me, and that's okay. For them, I actually would recommend staying in some kind of high yield dividend. Maybe not something so risky as yield max. I would say something like maybe even XTTE, and we can put that in here as well. XTTE last week only went down 1.6%, and year to date it's actually up, right? The thing, and it tracks the S&P very, very well and has pretty much stable 20% income. So that's something, personally, if I was already retired, that's what I'd be leaning more into rather than these really risky funds. We could also add last FEPI into this. FEPI. What the heck? FEPI? There we go. I don't know what happened. So FEPI, same thing. Last week, it's also gotten killed. Actually, more than AIPI. Anyways, I just want to let you guys know it's just something I've been really thinking about. And realistically, if we go to holdings here, you can see here, technically, we are down on both, but we're more down on yield max than we are the other two combined, which is kind of important. So, I don't know. Something to keep in mind. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna call it here. I just wanted to give you the update for the portfolio. Keep a lookout for the yield max group A distributions. Or no, sorry, I don't know what was last. Let's see here. I don't know why I said group A. It's group C, I think. Group C. Keep an eye out for that video. And also, if you haven't already seen the video for me discussing the new yield boost ETFs, YSPY, for example, really interesting fund. YSPY here. This is one of the new yield boost ETFs. Anyways, I go into depth on that in my other video. I'll keep that in the card, and check out that video if you haven't. But as always, guys, I wish you a wealthy future.